When you create an Insight Maker model, each of the entities that you use in the model has a default in terms of the way it appears. So if you create a stock, stocks are blue rectangles and variables are sort of flesh-colored ovals, converters are green-colored ovals. Though, and you can readily use all of these defaults without a problem. Though there are certain times when you, depending upon what the model is, it would be easier to understand the model if you coded it in certain ways. You might want to make all of the elements of the model that were the responsibility of different individuals or groups the same color, so it was easier to tell who was responsible for which pieces of the model. Or certain classes of elements within the model you might want to have styled differently. So the style menu over here gives you an option for font size, font color, line color, and fill color, as well as these options for text. Now you can set the style for any given entity, and that does not affect any of the rest of them. So that if I change this color for stock, and I go ahead and create another stock, I get another stock that's the same default color. Though if I select this, and I have changed the background for this, and I go ahead and change the line color on the outside to red, and I change the font color to this, and then I come down here and I say use as default style. Notice that this stock also got changed to that default, and if I create another stock, it's the same default, so that I can individually create or style any one of the primitives that I use in a model, whether it's a stock variable converter for SD models or agent-based, or the text, picture, and button options. Each one of those can have its own style defined, and I can do that individually for each entity. Or I can redefine the default, in which case all of those will be changed. So if I select this and tell it that I really want this to be a light blue with a dark blue line color, and then come down here and say use as default, it changes all of them to that. But then I could go back and change this one back to something else, which doesn't affect any of the ones that are now default. But if I create another variable, that's what I get as the default. You can do this for the flows and links also, so that if I go ahead and define this line to be blue and tell it that I want it to be solid and a size of, oops, there's also a line width, a size of 5. Oh, I set the text, sorry. Line color is blue, but I set the fill color to blue, and that's really, I really wanted that to be no fill color. So now I've defined this link to be blue, and I can go ahead and say use that as default, so that now they're all blue. So it's that easy to redefine the styles, so that if I now created a new link from here to here, it would also be blue. So you sort of define the style, and then you set the default to that which you would use most often. Now, if you go through all of the effort to set this, you probably don't want to do this over and over and over again. So there's also an option whereby you can use the Style Sheet Manager so that you can go ahead and download this style sheet. So I just saved this style sheet that I created. So if I went to another model and then decided to use that model in the same way, well, let me go here and tell it I want to excuse me, create a new insight, and then tell it that I want to go ahead and load that style sheet, which is not here. Hopefully it's over here. Here it is. So the style sheet has been loaded. So if I now create a variable, notice that this variable is identical to this variable. So you could establish a set of style sheets for different types of models, and you can save them and reload them when you want to use them. So it actually ends up being a very powerful option so that you can define a set of styles that you would use repeatedly, and then rather than having to redefine them every time you want to use them in a model, you can simply reload the style sheets. So it's quite versatile, and as I said, you can define all of those elements for each one of the primitives that you can use in the creation of Insight Maker models and the flows and links. And then they're all individual, and then you can save them and recall them. So, and in the next lecture, I'll talk about adding images to your model also. So, hope you found this informative, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.